Okay, I know what you're thinking. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, you probably looked at this idea and you said to yourselves in your head immediately, okay, why? Why? Why is this a thing? And that's kind of what I thought too when I saw Elliot Friedman talking about how the Canadiens are apparently interested in this player, when I saw this article on Montreal Hockey Now published by Jimmy Murphy. But the more I think about it, the more it does make sense. Not the trade proposal that is highlighted here in the piece, we'll get to that, but just the initial idea that the Canadiens would be interested in this player in the first place. So who are we talking about, and what is this idea? Well, it's Jakob Chychrun of the Arizona Coyotes, one of the guys that is probably highlighted as one of the more expensive and, if not the most valuable player on the NHL trade market today. Jakob Chychrun is a guy who could probably fit into the Montreal Canadiens lineup should they want to acquire this guy into the long-term future. He's 23 years old, 6'2", 209, a left-handed defenseman, drafted out of the 2016 NHL Entry Draft. He made the NHL immediately after that draft, even though he was only 18 years old, and even though he was taken in the mid-teens. You don't usually see guys taken in that range that make the jump to the National Hockey League right away. Chychrun, as we have noted in the many videos we have made about him in the past, bona fide top 4 defenseman, the number 1 defenseman in all NHL goals last year. He's having a down year this year, but for the services he provides, he is certainly seen as valuable because he's making $4.6 million a year till the end of the 2025 season. He's locked down for a while, and he's already got some pretty solidified play. Why would the Arizona Coyotes want to trade this guy? Well, it's because they kind of want to get younger. And I know you can look at that and say, okay, well, he's 23. He's not super old. Yeah, but they're trying to get even younger, you know? They want to build a team that progresses into the next few years and starts to get competitive then. And Jakob Chychrun is a piece that, if the asking price that we have been hearing from other NHL insiders is correct, could net the Arizona Coyotes a huge haul. We're talking about picks, we're talking about players, we're talking about prospects, we're talking about a boatload of stuff. And when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, well, speculation has arisen that their timeline is pretty much fitting what Chychrun could become as well, even though you could debate, okay, well, the Canadiens are trying to get younger too. They're also trying to go out there into the next few years. But at the end of the day, when you take a look at the idea of the Canadiens being interested in Chychrun, as guys like Friedman and others have noted, Montreal kind of just needs good players in general, so anybody that is on the market, especially if they're under the age of 25, I could totally understand why the Canadiens would go out there and see value in talking about this. And so we go over onto Montreal Hockey Now. NHL Trade Talk. If they can, should the Canadiens go after Chychrun? Published a week ago by Jimmy Murphy. I'll leave a link in the description to this article if you want to go ahead and read it. The Habs did not make any trades or coaching changes during their bye week and All-Star break. Amidst a firestorm of trade speculation and question marks about the job security of Canadiens head coach Dominique Ducharme as they headed into the past week, GM Kent Hughes and Executive Vice President of Hockey Ops Jeff Gorton ended up standing pat as of Sunday night. Instead of beginning the still expected changes to the roster, they took the week to evaluate their roster and coaching situation, and according to one NHL source, made plenty of calls to gauge the NHL trade market as the 21st of March trade deadline approaches. They were busy, I can tell you that, the source said. I'm sure you already know, but they're not just going to have some free-for-all fire sale. There are pieces in place, and it's just been one of those years. As you can attest, Murphy's Law exists, and it hit the Habs badly this year. What do I think will surprise a lot of people is the hockey trades they may make. Not just players for picks and prospects coming back, but player for player and money for money. From what I'm hearing, this could be more of a retool. And so, this is our opening idea, brought up in the article about how the Montreal Canadiens might not just go out there and sell off all of their older guys and longer-term guys and try to just go complete prospects and picks in terms of what they get in return. That's the Arizona Coyotes route. That's what that team is wanting to do, and that's why they're going to go out there, use up all the assets they can, trade away everybody they can, and use up all the cap space they can, too, to try to get as much draft capital and youth as possible. Montreal might not do that, because they might just go the traditional hockey trade route as well, while also getting draft picks and prospects in the process. It's probably going to be a pretty busy trade deadline period for Kent Hughes. This is why Jakob Chychrun enters the conversation. The article brings up his name, says that he is a valuable asset and he could be a useful piece for the Canadiens, yada yada yada. Brett Kulak, Ben Sherratt, we don't know who's going to be here, whatever. It's a pretty easy fill-in-the-blanks kind of conversation here. And so the article brings up, okay, what is stopping Montreal from going full send, all in on Chychrun right now? Right here, right now. Are we doing it now? Yes, we're doing it now. What's stopping them from doing that? Well, it's the idea that the draft is in Montreal, and so there's no way the Habs are hosting a draft without potentially the number 1 pick, and preferably another first-rounder. And so the article brings up then, what if the Canadiens could acquire another first-rounder in the next week or two, and then try to pitch the Coyotes on a trade for Chychrun? I'd say then, you're potentially in business, their NHL source said. Which is why you talk about the other conversations the Canadiens are having for other players on their roster and what they could fetch. You talk about guys like Toffoli, you talk about guys like Petrie, you bring up the unlikely names like Gallagher and Carey Price, and you say, okay, if the Canadiens are able to get more first-round picks, it becomes a lot more likely that they're able to go out there and make this Chychrun trade. Now, the idea of the draft actually being in Montreal, that's up in the air at the moment. We don't really know if it's actually going to happen that way, but it is a good idea to make sure the fans are getting what they want if the draft happens to indeed be in Montreal and they actually go forward with that process. This is where the article starts speculating. Assume the Canadiens actually go out there and they get extra draft picks. The Coyotes are reportedly willing to take on cap space, so if the Canadiens could get that first-round pick in a trade for Sherratt soon, could they offer a package of forwards Jonathan Drouin and Ryan Poehling, and defenseman Logan Mailloux for Chychrun? Now you're talking, the source says. And while yeah, he's got baggage, if you're offering the raw talent in Mailloux, well, maybe you change the first rounder you give to 2023. And so, this is our idea. Drouin, Poehling, first, Mailloux, for Chychrun? That's a huge package right there. And it's one that you kind of look at and it makes you reinforce that idea in your mind that, wow, Jakob Chychrun is worth a lot. Like, this is the Jack Eichel trade talk all over again just for a guy who is not a franchise caliber talent like Jack Eichel is. Sorry Chychrun, you're great, I love your play, but this guy is demanding a ton on the market, and I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say it's not justified. He's a good player, he's definitely worth something, but the price is really big, and so when you think about the Canadiens, assume they trade away Sherratt, assume they get a first-round pick back, and then they trade Drouin, Poehling, Mailloux, and another first for Jakob Chychrun. You're essentially trading that package of Drouin, Poehling, Mailloux, and Sherratt if you trade away the first-round pick that you would get for Sherratt in this kind of move. And so, when you think about it like that, does that become a lot more of an attractive package? Drouin, Mailloux, Poehling, and Sherratt for Chychrun. And it's not just a Chychrun that's going to expire either. This guy's on the books till 2026. Now, it's a big price to pay, yes, but if you take a look at the assets involved, I mean, Jonathan Drouin is involved in so much trade discussion nowadays, and he has been for the past few years, so it's not really anything new to discuss this guy and potentially trading him away. I think a lot of Canadiens fans are sort of used to that idea. And besides, for all the fanfare and the love that Jonathan Drouin does get once in a while when he's in the lineup, the Canadiens already proved they can succeed without him. They did the entire 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs, or 2021 Stanley Cup playoff run without him. So unfortunate as it is, Jonathan Drouin, at the end of the day, could just be seen as another trade candidate in these kinds of talks. Ryan Poehling is a guy that honestly hasn't really blossomed into what a lot of Canadiens fans wanted him to be, especially after seeing his stellar World Junior performance all those years ago. Does he still have NHL potential and a solidified role to be in the National Hockey League? Yes, I would say so, but if the Canadiens could go out there and salvage what little hype exists around Poehling nowadays into any kind of trade, I honestly think you go out there and you try it out because, I mean, Poehling just hasn't really worked out the way they wanted him to, you know? Logan Mailloux has been playing pretty alright, to be honest, but there is indeed a lot of baggage that comes with a player like this. I have no idea if the Arizona Coyotes would even think about getting this player because, you know, after what happened with Mitch Miller, I don't know if they would want to tempt fate and get that entire thing going again, but you also have the first-round pick that the Canadiens should package in as well. So if you think about it like that, Drouin, Poehling, Mailloux in a first, and that first you would have acquired from Ben Sherratt, so you could by proxy just say Drouin, Mailloux, Poehling, and Sherratt for Chychrun. Honestly, I don't really think the Canadiens have too much to lose here. Like, I know it's a valuable package, but you gotta give up value to get value, right? So Let me know in the comments what you think about this entire idea over here. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, would you do that trade? Acquire Jakob Chychrun for this big package, and if you're a Coyotes fan, would you be okay with this kind of return as well? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. The link to the article will be in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.